Nothing going on, nothing to report. We are live from Vidalia, Georgia for no reason. I'm off work. I've got some time on the ride home to go live. Got nothing to talk about. What am I doing? Am I just trying to get some attention? I ain't got nothing to talk about. Why not just go live? Who knows? Who knows? I don't even know. Maybe someone else knows. And good for you. That's good. I told you your videos look good. I think if you, I'm thinking, hey, Wade, good job. 642 subscribers. I don't have 642, but I did meet my goal. Maybe I should have set my goal higher. By yesterday, I wanted to have 100 subscribers, and I have 150. At 645. That's good. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. And hello, Wade. It's been really hot. And so after work, I don't really feel like getting in a hot bee suit and making bee videos, but I'm gonna do it. My gas light just come on. Guess I gotta get gas in Mount Vernon. Get paid tomorrow, or I get paid at midnight. Thank you. I'm going to tell all of them. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I got this sun's in my eyes. I'm gonna put this down so. I'm just now getting out of the habit of squinting with my glasses. Because I would keep squinting by habit even though I didn't have to. I ordered 2 fishing poles. They were on sale. I'm going to teach Brittany how to fish this weekend. And let's him go. I'm stopping for him. It's my turn to go now. Do y'all get to 4-way stops and don't trust, like, you'll see somebody put their right blinker on and you're like, I'm gonna wait a second and see if they turn right. Because you've seen them put their right blinker on and turn left before. Now you just have no trust for other drivers. Like I was at Henson Hill, someone tried to pass me on a solid line around the left side of me when I was turning left and had my signal on for a long time. And so now I never trust anybody to do what they say they're gonna do. I don't know. I don't know who's driving. I want to get me some goats, but I've been told they'll eat my fruit trees, so I'm gonna have to fence them in. And every time I think about buying a lawnmower, I think I could get a goat for that. Maybe I should get some sheep to eat the grass now. I just want goats. I want something to turn the grass into milk, but also make fertilizer. They say that our phosphorus supplies are running out, and that's going to put Morocco, which is normally a kind of a weak country without a lot of money. They have like some of the most phosphorus in the world, like mineable phosphorus. And so they say, and I don't know if they said like 30 years, they're going to decide who eats. But I don't know, somebody might invade them. They might need to go ahead and make a deal. Because all countries are kind of like your military. They're like land claims. Every nation has claimed land for a collective. And the military is the primary, that's the main thing you need in the government. Everything else is secondary to that. And we are so safe and powerful that we forget that. But really, you can say you own a territory and you say you own the resources, but if somebody can invade and take them, you don't really own them. So you've got to get the military to be able to protect it. And when everybody runs out of fertilizer and wants it, I don't think Morocco really has a military capacity to defend their phosphorus. And they need to be thinking about that. I got some friends in Morocco. I like Morocco. There's a lot of people in Morocco that they have to pretend they believe things they don't believe, or else they'll get ostracized or they'll get killed. So there's a lot of people in Morocco that really have a mindset more like Europeans or Americans, but they still have to kind of pretend, because there's the people that will cut their head off or blasphemy or whatever because it's an Islamic country. I ain't gonna turn the camera because a lot of times when I pick it up and I flip it around and flip it back, I lose my viewers or I drop the phone. Let me read some of these comments while the road straightens out. Trump rocks. I voted for Trump. I'm disappointed about him not releasing the Epstein stuff. And I didn't vote for Trump the first time because the first time I just didn't believe it. People are like, he's not a politician. I'm like, he's been on Oprah. He's been in the media for 30 years. He's been asked if he's going to run for president for 30 years. He's got his name everywhere. They're like, he's not a politician. I'm like, he's selling his brand name. He definitely is. I'm like, the media's hating him on purpose. They wouldn't give him so much attention. They'd just sidestep him like Ron Paul if he was anything serious. And I didn't believe it. But then he got elected, right? And he did a lot of the things he said he was going to do. So I was like, whoa, that's new. I'm not used to people doing what they said they were going to do to get elected. So the second time he run against Kamala Harris. And I got to say, when he ran against Joe Biden, I didn't think Joe Biden would get a single vote. I didn't think I had to vote. I'm like, nobody's going to vote for Joe Biden. Nobody at all. And my county voted for Trump, so it really didn't matter that I didn't vote. And the Electoral College votes, so it didn't really matter that I didn't influence the Electoral College. But then Trump was saying he cut the gas in half, cut the power bill in half. I was like, go for it. Let's do that. Then I vote for him. Then he gets in and he's like, that's not a priority. We got to give a lot of money to Israel. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he won't release the Epstein stuff. And then Jeffrey Epstein is a Mossad agent, or at least Maxwell's grandfather or father. Her father's like a famous Mossad spy. And so say, nothing's going to change. I'm just disillusioned with the whole thing. I don't really have no political idols or anything. I don't believe the QAnon shit. Like, nobody's gonna come save us and fix it. There's nothing being fixed in the background. I just don't believe that we can fix anything by voting. I think that the Rothschilds and all their allies, they'll keep printing money, buying things for the cheap before inflation makes the prices go up. They'll keep buying out all the politicians, and Israel will pretty much keep through their puppets, the Masons, and their puppets, the Bavarian Illuminati, and their control of the banks and the media. They'll keep running the show, and they'll keep having people work for them in the Republican and Democratic parties. And I mean, I know I'm not going to vote Democrat at all because I'm not for abortion. I believe that there is a real conspiracy to try to keep us from breeding. There's like some rich people, they want the planet to go to their children. They've got their robots and they're just done with us. And I don't really, they're trying to phase us out. And I do believe that they're especially targeting white people. They want your kids to either have abortions or be gay. They don't want us reproducing. We're trending toward extinction and they like that. There's not a single white country with replacement birth rates. They're all trending toward extinction. The Jews are maintaining their power in all the institutions, and they'll still be in power when they import the third world. And I just don't really think that there's any politicians that are really for the American people. Their job is pretty much to work for the United Nations, to work for the Jews, and keep the people calm and keep the people from revolting and keep the people believing and trusting in the institutions by voting, to keep the people from doing anything while they slowly strip away money and all the liberties. And they trend us toward extinction. They put poison in our food and they inject us with a lot of things to lower our IQ and reproductive rates. And then people will keep thinking, well, Oh, these Republicans have been fucking things up. This Democrat's going to come in and save us. The Democrats think the opposite. You know, the Democrats say the Republicans are fucking it up. We need a Democrat to come in and save us. Republicans think the Democrats are fucking it up. Now we're going to vote a Republican and save us. And it just keeps switching back and forth and nothing ever gets done. About 30% of the people's will is represented by the two-party system. So you need a majority to pass anything. So you're going to have to make a political bloc where you put a lot of people that are not really the same party together to get a 50%. And you wind up having these two parties work together, kind of like the old aristocracy. And they keep day trading, and they keep getting rich, and they keep the people passive, and they keep signing treaties with the United Nations to take away national sovereignty and mold us all into this one world slavery. And that's what it is. Like, they want to get rid of, they say, inequality and make the equality between all nations. You cannot fairly do that because all nations don't merit equality. You know, some nations are working hard and some nations are slacking off. Some nations have high IQ, some nations have low IQ. Some nations are evil, some nations have moral people. So you can't just say everybody should have the same standard of living. Everybody, you know, and they want to abolish private property. And that really kills the incentive. It also changes you got to think about what are humans going to breed to be in the future. So if you take a bunch of people that they wouldn't be able to make, and I know some people this way, the grandchildren, they wouldn't even have grandchildren if it wasn't for the government put every bit of food in their bellies and their daddy's bellies and their granddaddy's bellies. They wouldn't even be here. They wouldn't even be able to compete and survive. They wouldn't have even made it without we've afforded a lot of safety and protection. And then we're taking from the earners and giving it to the people who don't earn. And we're allowing the people who don't produce to outbreed those who do. And so we're going to trend toward being less intelligent, less capable, and we're building a type of slave race, basically. We're a race that's dependent upon the government. And I don't think that's good. And we're handicapping people who would excel because it hurts the feelings of people who won't bother to do the work. Like they feel bad when somebody's doing really good, so they want to tear them down. And I really people have tried to make cars off of water where it uses electricity and it splits the hydrogen and oxygen and it burns the hydrogen. And as a waste product, it makes oxygen and water vapor. Like you wouldn't be polluting. And why don't they let the people have this? It would be good if the people in power wanted to foster other people to become powerful and rich. But it's a threat to their own power. So you'll have like an emperor that doesn't want to elect competent governors because he's scared they might get his job. So, like Barack Obama doesn't want to be outshined, so he gets Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't want to be outshined, so he gets Kamala Harris. And it trends to worse and worse and worse. And it's the same thing in the Republican Party. But I think it's worse a problem in the Democratic Party. But I'm not for equity. I'm not for equality. I'm not even an egalitarian. So, but a lot of people our culture is based on a lie. Because a group of people didn't like that the King of England was getting the tax money, and they wanted the tax money. They wanted to keep the tax farm, but change who takes in the taxes. And the Jews were like, hey, we can help you out to get freedom from the Christian kings. And there was this sort of the Messianic alliance between Jews and white Protestants where they said, we're going to build a new system outside of monarchy. And in some ways things got better, but in other ways things got worse. But we've been really brainwashed in our whole culture, and a lot of the other subcultures that have come from it, have all been off of this egalitarian lie. And it's why you get veganism. Like, all animals, humans are not equal to water fleas. We're more intelligent. We have the capacity to love stronger and hate stronger. We're more powerful. There's more energy. There's more force of will in our being. There's more vitality in our life. We're more of a keystone species. There's more other species that depend upon us than them. So I think you could just objectively, honestly say that humans are more valuable than water fleas or ticks. But through the lie of egalitarianism, that then has got extended onto animals and plants and fungi and bacteria. And so now people are starting to say, well, dang, we need to give human rights to lobsters. And then people get to thinking, well, damn, I, as a human, am no better than a cow. I shouldn't have the right to eat a cow. And they don't think, well, humans are actually worth more. And it's a noble sight. It's good to sacrifice that for us. And our brain couldn't have developed to the point that it did without me. But why do you have feminism and communism and veganism? Is because it's just the natural outgrowth of that aim being off. Egalitarianism was a lie from the start. And so then they start saying, well, maybe all the species are equal, and maybe we should have the same standard for two different genders, which makes no sense. You wouldn't have the same standard for apples as oranges. You wouldn't be like, well, I judge this apple as not being equal because it ain't got enough yellow in it. It's not as orange as this orange. It makes no sense. When you try to make the lazy and the hardworking, the virtuous and the evil, man, woman, animal, you try to make everything equal without it deserving it, you're headed for disaster. And so some people say, well, look, crime is coming out of poverty. And that's not really so true at all. It really isn't. You got plenty of communities of poor people that can keep the doors unlocked at night. It's really the opposite. It's the immorality that leads to the poverty. It's when you try to open up a business in a certain section of town, and the people are so immoral that they're going to shoplift all the time, and you can't afford to stay in business, and then the business closes down, and the economy sucks in that area. And then you don't have the theft because of the poverty. You have the poverty because of the theft. Because the hardworking people in the area have to buy the same tool 3 times because it's been sold for 3 different hits of meth. Somebody bought a $60 tool that got sold for $10 of meth, and they had to go buy another one. Now they got to work themselves. They got to work for hours to get that tool back that just got stolen. You see how theft hurts the economy? The store, and then a lot of, because it makes people, it's inefficient. If people can buy something and it never gets stolen, that's more efficient than if somebody has to work and rebuy. And the stores have to raise their prices to cover for the employee and the customer theft. And so there's a lot of people, they're like, well, these people are committing crimes because they're poor, and if we give them more money, they'll stop committing crimes. And when you give them more money, they just get a worse drug addiction. They just gamble it away. They just spend it on consumables, and then they still don't have anything. There is a skill, and there is a sort of wealth building. And there's a lot of people that they have the power to vote and influence the decision, and they want to talk about wealth distribution, but they don't want to talk about actually making wealth. And they want to demonize people. Like when Jeff Bezos come out, I remember he was like this geeky looking dude with a lazy eye that was bald headed. And people kept making fun of him. They thought that Amazon would never be successful. And they kept saying, like, your company isn't making a profit. He kept reinvesting all his profit into building the company. He had a long-term plan, and he was honest with his shareholders the whole time. And I always liked him for that. And then he makes $200 billion, but that's only 20%. 80% is what he made other people. Other people got rich too. So it's not like he went and robbed people of $200 billion. He made the whole economy more efficient, where people, like old people that were injured, that couldn't leave the house and go to Walmart, could have food ordered to their door, medicine ordered to their door. Everybody could have everything from all around the world ordered to their door. That is producing a service that people wanted. It's like, how does Coca-Cola have money? They make a drink people want to drink. They're not out here robbing nobody. People are agreeing to buy what they're selling. And you get rich by producing goods and services that people want. And you don't need to kill the incentive for that. It's a good thing to let people be successful. Let people do what they're good at doing and don't hold them back. And when you let people get rich, the people around them get rich because they got to spend their money somewhere. Don't get mad if your neighbor's doing good. You'll be doing good as a result. Your store will probably stay in business. There's a lot of people that are very greedy and they project that greed onto other people. And they're so greedy that they want what they haven't even earned. And then they project that greed onto the earners. And they say, these people are so greedy. They should be working to accomplish my dream for me. They should be a slave to me. They should work to pay for my college. They should work for my food. They should work to pay for my emotional, it's just a bunch of bullshit. And I tell you, I am not anti-God. I am not anti-religion, but I'm saying a lot of people pray too much. Or maybe they pray for the wrong things too much. They sit there and they pray asking God for things that they should just do for themselves. God's not wanting them to be a baby. He wants them to develop and become more and to grow up and to be more. And so sometimes people should just go ahead and ask themselves, can I fix this problem on my own? Some people wait around praying for God to do something for them, and they could have done it. They're thinking it the wrong way. I think that's where the phrase, it existed before there was Christianity, before there was, the Greeks used to say, the gods help those who help themselves. And now, this said in monotheistic societies, they say, God helps those who help themselves. And I really do believe that if there is God and he's looking at somebody and they're just not even trying, I don't think he's going to help them. I don't think he's going to just enable them to be a bum their whole life and just be their genie and grant their every wish. I think, if they'll get started and they'll go and they'll do the work, he'll help them. But I'm not saying don't pray. I know the Bible says pray without ceasing. I'm just saying don't be constantly asking God to do things for you. Or don't ask other people. Like, first ask yourself, can I do it myself? Can I do it? Do I have to trouble someone else? Can I just do it myself? And if you can just do it yourself, just do it yourself. Tend to the garden you can reach. And also sometimes just take a minute and look at how beautiful the sky is. Look at how beautiful the forest is. Take a minute and be grateful for the things that you used to wish for that you have, that you take for granted now because you're thinking about the next thing that you want. Because once you get what you want, you're going to forget that you got it, and you're going to be wanting the next thing. So take some time to remember you got the things you used to dream of having. And remember to be happy about it. All your the people that I believe rock, they all got killed. Jesus Christ, Julius Caesar, I believe he slandered a lot. I know he did some bad, but some good too. Alexander, I believe he was poisoned. John F. Kennedy, Garfield. Now, Jackson, they tried to kill him so many times, and he got rid of the fraudulent fractional reserving bank of his day, paid off the national debt, and made the cost of living super cheap. Even though they complained about, there's a recession in the stock market, it fully recovered until they crashed it again, But the cost, for the American people, things were great under Andrew Jackson. And they give him a lot of hate for the displacement of the Indians, but the Seminoles were crossing the border up into Georgia and brutally killing the old babies. They'd bash babies' heads up against the rocks. They were raping women. They were raping children. They were enslaving people. And so Spain wouldn't stop them from crossing the border. The British and the Spanish were selling them weapons, and they were a constant threat to South Georgia, constantly being raided by the Seminoles. So he had to go in and do something about it. Or we had to just lose the land to the Seminoles. It was one or the other. And then as far as the Cherokee, now this is kind of bad because it's not that the Cherokee weren't really causing problems for us, except that they were developing. They had developed a written language, and they had adopted agriculture. They still had their hunting and gathering knowledge, and they had their agriculture and our agriculture and modern clothing, and they were industrialized. They were becoming the great power. And they had gold, and they were up in the mountains. And so it was really like either they were going to become a powerful state in the Americas, or we had to get rid of them while they were weak, while we were strong enough to do it, and displace them. Not saying it was morally right that we done it, but because our ancestors made that tough call and were ruthless, Georgia's a pretty nice place today. You can be in North Georgia in North or South Georgia and not get scalped. You can say that Andrew Jackson is an evil. He did what he does. He chose his people over other people. And I don't know. I have less sympathy for the Seminole than the Cherokee. Because you kind of got to know your limits too. Like if you are weaker and you don't have the ability to win, and you go attacking a hornet's nest, it's like I have no sympathy for Israel. When Israel attacked every single one of their neighbors and people launched rockets at them, I don't have no sympathy. They attack an embassy, which should be a declaration of war. They attacked the Iranian embassy, I think in Syria. They attack them first, and then they get attacked. And how they've been doing the Palestinians. It's like, and a lot of people don't know what happened before 9/11. They don't know about the CIA's regime changes all over the Middle East. And they don't know about us putting wicked people in power over them because we could compromise them. Same thing with the Epstein thing, but in reverse. The CIA used to do the same thing. The CIA used to provide children to pedophile leaders in the third world to be able to blackmail them and control them. They've declined. They didn't. MK Ultra started destroying files when they were ordered to release them, and we didn't get to know all of what they done. But what they done was insane. Like they would take children and molest them and pop every single joint out of their body. They would go back and forth from sensory overload to sensory deprivation, and they would cause a split personality. Basically, as a coping mechanism, they would kind of become unconscious and slip into another personality a personality designed to deal with the trauma. And they would also be in a heightened alert state. This is before computers. Kings and queens used to do this before the CIA, because through torturing people, they had learned these tactics and things. And anyway, they would have a photographic memory while they were in this state. And they could, pages and pages and pages of information, they could remember it and retain it. And then they could shift into the other personality that doesn't know it. So they're carrying the secrets, but they don't even know the secrets because the secrets are attached to their trauma. And their brain is protecting them from their trauma and making them forget. So they're slipping into this other personality. There's a lot of celebrities and news anchors, and there's a lot of people who are victims of MK Ultra and of this. And so back in the old days, that was your computer. You used a human brain. And anyway, the human brain, for far less energy, can have more storage and computing power than a computer. You can get AI to do it, but it burns way more energy. It's way less efficient. And so, the CIA did these horrible things, and they did these horrible things in countries all over the world. And these people have a reason that they hate us, but then the American people aren't allowed to know that they even done it, and they say it's a matter of national security, but it actually makes us less safe because people will believe the bullshit. They believe that the people hate us for no reason. They don't know that the CIA was over there monkeying around, overthrowing Iran's legitimate governor. Like the people who were actually helping the people of Iran got overthrown. And the crazy radicals got put in by us on purpose because we wanted to keep Iran down. We didn't want Iran to develop. Really, it's like America is like really hoping to be England's favorite child. I don't know why. Like we've just decided, I guess the CIA decided in World War II that the British intelligence was like super, super cool, and we really wanted to join their club. And please let us in, and we'll forever fight whatever war England wants to go to. Even though England, we fought them for independence, and then we fought them in the War of 1812. And then after that, we were just like, we will fight all your enemies, England. That's something I don't understand. I think it might just be that we share common blood. We share so much of the same blood that we just want to have them as our number one ally. But just from like I don't know, from a Machiavellian sense, it doesn't make sense to me. If America was to just put itself first, I don't see why we favor England so much, especially now. Once they gain that power over women, they try as hard as they can to keep women from any power too. I think they give the power to the women to emasculate the men and strip the power from the men. Because really, at the end of the day, women can't really have the same level of power as men because it's nature. They don't have as much strength. They can't track motion with their eyes fast. They're just never going to out-war your men. And you're always going to have to use men to be the soldiers and the police. And so at the end of the day, women only have the rights that men agree. Like, I don't want my baby sister, treated a certain way. So if men treated her a certain way, I'd go beat her up. But she can't enforce those. Women can't enforce those rights and privileges. Men decide them and give them to women. But men do earn their own and give their own to women. And so they want to demasculate men. They don't want men to have confidence. They don't want men to have authority over their family, to be able to actually protect their family and make strong families, strong houses. They don't want you to be able to make a crown that you can pass to the next generation. They don't want you to have a tribal or family identity. That's why being racist, I'm not saying be hateful to other races, but that's why we're taught that racism is the chief sin. You love your own children more than some stranger's children, even though you wouldn't want to do harm to other children. You put your family before people that are strangers, and your race is your extended family. And they don't want you to have a family identity, a clan identity, a tribal identity. They want you to be a pawn, a worker, and have a civil identity. Everybody be Americans. Now, there's benefits to that. There are benefits to that. But it does come at a cost. And they don't want men to be men. Like, there's times I should have been able to go and beat the hell out of certain men. Peebo, for example. Just because I had but I'm not allowed to be a man because then he'll call the police. I'll have an assault charge on me and I'll be in trouble. It's like like women are able to just attack men because the men, and I'm not saying you should hit a woman because it don't even hurt when they hit you and you can dodge and you can get out the way and a woman can't outrun you. Her lung capacity is going to give out. Like, you don't have to be there. But what I'm saying is that there's men that women have beat the hell out of them with, like, grab weapons and everything, and they know they can't defend themselves, or even if they don't defend themselves, the police can side with the woman and lock him up. She can call the police and lock him up. She can divorce him and take his kids and take his house. And they're supposed to be equal whether she earns it or not. And if he's been paying her bills, it's seen as, well, he prevented her from being able to work, not he paid her rent. It's like, okay, now he owes her for paying her rent and food. They don't, everything on TV, the father is an idiot and the mother is the one that's competent. They don't want men to be men. They don't want you to have balls because then you might resist the government. They want you, so by making a woman that's weaker than you your boss, they done strip you of all your power. You're not going to stand up against the government. Your brain is emasculated. Your brain is neutered. Your brain is afraid to stand up and be a man because you can't even, like a lot of men joke about the woman is the boss of them. How did that even happen? Men chose to let them vote. Why? Because they can't make their own club. They can't get along long enough. Women cannot make an institution at all, not a single institution. And I'm not saying that there's a lot of things women do better than men, that they're awesome. They're awesome home builders. They're awesome at nurturing children, but they're just not the same political animals. They did not go to war and kill each other. They did not fight to protect the land. They did not for thousands and thousands of years serve in any kind of political capacity. They're just not adapted or evolved to do it. And then all of a sudden, after never having done it, people just decide one day because they're so rich and powerful, they're like, maybe we can afford to give this a chance. Let's just let the women vote. And the women already had the power of the pussy, and now they can vote. And that was the end of it. And then they fall to advertisement really easy. They just do. It's they're manipulated by their emotions very easy. And they want safety more than freedom when men want freedom more than safety. And so your nation becomes feminine and not masculine. A masculine nation will conquer other nations if there's war. A masculine nation will send out colonies. They don't take in immigrants. They're not feminine taking in. They're masculine sending out. They're conquering. So when the women vote, it changes the nature of the government. For one, women are the gas on spending, not the brakes. Every single nation that's given women the right to vote, without any exception, has went into debt and had negative birth rates. It is impossible to give women political power and survive. That's a hard pill for some people to swallow, but you've destroyed your nation at that point. It's inevitable. Because what's going to happen is you're not going to have the birth rates to keep up with the patriarchal societies. You're going to become less and less people over time, and you're going to debt. And any kind of like in Europe, all the men knew better than to let these men in. They're like, these are not refugees. These are military-age men that are going to come over here and stab and rape our women. And the women are like, oh, you're so bad, you're racist. They voted to let them in. The men had no authority. Then they come in, they're raping all our women. And then what's a big crime to even say that a Muslim or an Arab or a Turk or a Somali, or it's like, oh, you're being racist because you're making generalizations about Arabs being rapists in Europe. And then the people that actually got raped or tried to defend their women from being raped, they go to jail. They're not allowed to be men. And why aren't they allowed to be men? Why they don't want you to be? See, it's not. Women were never made stronger. All their safety was taken away from them, and it was inevitable that we would fall to a dictatorship when women were given political power. It didn't make them safer because their safety comes from their men. Their safety comes from men, and when their men are weak, the ones who defend them are weak, and they start looking to the government as their the government can become the father and the husband. The government provides the police for protection. The government provides the welfare, the provision. And really, like, a lot of people want to not put blame where it goes. But this trend really started with the disloyalty of black women. Black women totally betrayed their men the first chance they got to have some government aid. They totally betrayed them. They said, shit, we don't need you. We'll kick you out of the picture. We'll take the money. We'll be baby mama. And then, and it's really, that's where that cultural influence started, and it spread to the other people. And now everybody's doing it. But that's really, I guess they were tempted more to take the money because they had less money. But they shouldn't have took the money. They should have said, no, they were good. Because if you look, black people were getting more and more land. They were being educated. They were getting into political offices. They had highest marriage rate lowest divorce. Black people were doing really, really, really good before the welfare state. Then after that, it was downhill from then on out. And they were just rising up on their own merit. They were inventing all kind of things, having all kind of businesses, but then they took the bribe. And women took the bribe. They fell for it. They thought, because women can't be as powerful as men. They just can't. And it's not just that they're physically weaker. Them having lower testosterone means that they can't handle as much stress. They get overstimulated faster. They will, as you start putting stress on a man and a woman, the man's testosterone keeps his cortisol stress levels lower. Once his testosterone levels drop and bottom out, then the cortisol spikes. But the woman spikes before that. And then as it spikes and goes up, she'll go into hysteria. Women can just be subject to mass hysteria. So a lot of times, a lot of fake spiritual stuff is just female hysteria, because the hypnotic ceremonies and everything is finally overstimulated the women to the point that they're just in hysteria, and it's mistaken for God. But I could talk about that in a whole different video. But women can't handle as much stress. They can't handle as much physical stress or mental stress. And so there's just no way. And testosterone is also linked to your force of will, your willpower, your focus. A lot of things are bullshit that we've been told. Like, we've been told women are better at multitasking. They're actually not. They get distracted easier. They were told that women were more productive in corporations. It's not true. They based that on a study where women basically used more words to say less, printed out more pieces of paper, and they said they were more productive. But every single corporation, the more women you put on the board, the less profitable and efficient they become, the less lethal military, police, fire, government bureau. Like in all things, they're just not made to do that. And nobody is strengthening the weak by weakening the strong. That's what Abraham Lincoln said about slavery. He was, or not just that, but there was also a lot of protectionist movements against the capitalism and just. But he said you can't strengthen the weak by weakening the strong, and that's what they've tried to do. They've tried to strengthen women by weakening men, and it doesn't work. And most women are just not really as interested in politics at all. It's just, when they pass a law to let women vote, the majority of women did not want to vote and did not think it would be good for the country and didn't want to do it. It was just a minority that wanted to do it. And I'm telling you what, two of them suffragettes, I've seen them in the encyclopedia. God forgive me if I'm just whatever, but I think they're transgender. I don't even think the first suffragettes were women. I think they were men dressed up to look like women to start the movement as a psyop. And God forgive me, if those were not men pretending to be women, they were the ugliest two women in the world. And that's probably why they couldn't get a husband, and they started the whole feminist movement, and to begin with, trying to tell other women they were oppressed by having a husband. And I really think every single wave, like a lot of people, they'll come in and say, third wave feminism was bad, but second and first wave were good. They were all bad. And the men that voted to let women vote, those men were just a bunch of pussies, neutered men that just, they just needed the approval of women so bad. One of these senators, he didn't believe it was a good idea, but his mama wrote him a letter shaming him about it, and he couldn't upset his mama, so he had to destroy his whole country. And in the protocols of the elders of Zion, the Jews talk about how they know that they know about the freedom illusion. They know that everything is really decided by the force, by power, by force. And it was really it was a con the whole time, this false promise of freedom. And it was only to rebel against the kings, who were really protecting the people more from the banking powers. And once they had tricked the people to remove the Christian kings, the Jewish bankers took over. And they do not care about the non-Jews. Your Christian king, he may have had his vices. He may have been a lunatic or whatever, but his pride was based on his country. So he didn't want to go talk to his other king, next door neighbor, and be like, my country's a shitty country. Damn, your castle looks better than mine. Your boat looks better than mine. Your people are dressed better than mine. Your people are fed better than, they all wanted to be the French are the best. The British are the best. The Portuguese are the best, And they saw the land country as their property, so they didn't want to destroy their own property, and they were going to pass it down to their child. So they didn't want to destroy it; they wanted it better than it was before, and their people were their people, so they had that too. It was like, well, I'm English, and these people are English. I'm Spanish; these people are Spanish. But the Jews have no loyalty whatsoever to any country that they occupy, whatsoever. They never assimilate. They're loyal to each other. And it's not good to have a foreign power rule over you. It don't matter who they are. You don't want Burkina Faso ruled by the French or the Americans. You want it ruled by people in Burkina Faso. You don't want Russia ruled by France. You want it ruled by the Russians. And you look in history, all like when you get your Russians are ruled by Austrians, and your British are ruled by Germans, and it's when everybody's ruled by somebody that's not them, that's when the real problems happen, because they don't really care about the people as much. They have less incentive to care. They don't care. They just exploit. The Jews are only here to exploit. And Netanyahu even says it. He says once he's done using America, they could drop and blow away. They openly say on the news in their country, they're using us, they hate us, and they want us destroyed. And then over here, we're just told, they're the good guys. We need to help them out all the time. And they're the ones that are funding pornography. They're the ones that are funding transgenderism. They're the ones that are funding the COVID vaccine. They're the ones at the World Economic Forum trying to say you'll be happy owning nothing. They're the ones making the RNA injectable chip that's also a tracker, that's also the money. They're the ones doing all this stuff. They're the ones pushing the feminism and the communism, the Bolshevism, Marxism, the veganism. Kings and nobles, they used to go eat meat. The slaves ate grain. The daily bread is for the slaves, y'all. The daily bread is the bare minimum to keep you alive. Not to be your best self, not to be really strong and smart. That's why the kings always, the nobility always reserved wild game for them to eat, while the peasants' mainstay was grain. And so the whole push to veganism is really the same thing. It's let's get these people on a slave diet. Let's get these people, they don't want us to be smart. They want us to be just smart enough to obey. They don't want us to be strong. And they don't even want us to exist anymore, really. They got robots and they got their children. They're ready to phase us out. Their plan is to use us until a certain point, then to force sterilize us and work us until they don't need us no more, and then remove us from the planet and the whole earth be nothing but Jews. Lots of Jews. Lots of Jews see that as their long-term goal. And when I first started uncovering these conspiracies, I used to be always quick to say, oh, it's just a small minority, but no. It's a part of their culture. It's ingrained in their Talmud. It's in their psychology. It's from the time they're a child. It's the mentality. It's all of them. It's all of them. It's all the Jews. And it's because they dehumanize everybody that's not Jew, and they only humanize Jews. And that's always going to cause social problems everywhere they go. And I mean, it's what it is. I'm going to read these comments. Man, I wish I was reading these comments while I was talking so I could have. Yes, it is hot in Georgia for sure. Well, I don't think that I don't think women should be slaves. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think that women should. I don't think, also, I just don't believe that women cannot naturally have power over men. They could not win against a man in a fight. If they had a disagreement and it went down to violence, the man would win. Nature has made men in charge of women. So their excess muscle to provide for them and to protect them, but also to be an authority. Our species is set up for our survival that way. And anytime you try to put women in charge of men, you don't have any innovation. You don't have any. One thing you do get, though, is the societies that are matriarchal are absolutely brutal to men in breeding a warrior. They do that. They do, like Sparta, for instance. Sparta was a matriarchy. Women controlled the money. Women were able to own land. And women shamed men a lot in their training to become Spartan warriors. And if a man couldn't get his wife pregnant, she could just, by law, another Spartan could sleep with her. Land wasn't passed down from father to son. It was communally held and passed by the state. Men did serve political roles in all these offices, but your heiresses, basically, women had gotten rich off of being widowed by so many of their men being sent to war dying. And they controlled everything behind the scenes in Sparta. Women had all the money, but they didn't have the population. They had negative population. So when the Romans come in, Sparta's a joke. It doesn't matter if they've got the best warriors. There's not any of them. They've been so strict about how perfect they must be. The women would rather keep their wealth than remarry. And their population has fallen to almost nothing, to where Rome just takes Sparta over like they're nothing. Because they're a patriarchal society that has a lot of children, and they can just produce way more soldiers. And that's the thing. You cannot long term, like, no nation has ever, there's never been able to be a female tribe. One time, there were a few times that it's been attempted where women have in certain tribes have been treated bad by men, and they go off and they try to make their own tribe, and they can never make enough food to feed themselves. They can never make enough money, and they always turn into prostitution. It turns into a prostitution village every single time. And women will fight each other. They have a lot of infighting. A group of men can get along with certain men having authority over them. But women are more egalitarian. Women are okay with there being an alpha man, but women always want what the other woman's got. Hey, if she has this, I should be able to have this. And they all want to agree or make sure people agree with them before they make a decision. And so they want to reach a consensus before every little decision. And when a consensus isn't reached, they pout about it. They break up into two factions. There's the women that side with the woman that got her feelings hurt, and there's the women that side with the queen bee, and they split up. And women always want to get invited in and allowed into different men's groups. We want women video cameras. We want to be in the Senate because they don't make their own Senate. We want to get in your school because they don't make their own written language. Women don't put symbols to sounds and make their own language. They wait for men to build something, and then they want it. And they didn't even want writing. When writing was about math and science and religion, they didn't care. It wasn't until fiction's invented that women want to read anyway. And I mean, I know there are women that study and do, but I'm talking in a lot of general terms, because you can't have a conversation without it. And I'm so tired of people feel the need to say every single exception to every single, sometimes you should just say things. Scroll your comments up. I will scroll all the way to, I see the hey Paul. But anyway, when you give somebody something that they haven't earned, the people who have earned will inevitably resent. And when women haven't earned a lot of these things and they're just given them, they're not going to be respected for it. And then they get upset that they're not respected for it. But, there's a lot of companies, they promote women in office jobs and all that because they can't do the manual labor. And they got to hire so many women, or they got to hire so many everybody. But women were never meant to have the strength. Like, women aren't meant to go out and die for somebody. They're not meant to go out and fight somebody to the death to protect the home. And so, if you give somebody responsibility, but you don't give them authority, that's tyranny. You can have tyranny of the weak, too. Tyranny is not always one super powerful person being a tyranny over everybody. A lot of times it's a bunch of losers being a tyranny. A bunch of losers vote to go take everything from the winners. You can have a tyranny of the incompetent, which is worse, really. You can have a tyranny of the weak. And that's pretty much what we've come to. We followed the lie of egalitarianism down to where we're trending toward mediocrity, and we're not allowing men to be men, and we're just trending toward weaker and dumber, more and more incompetence, and we're putting more and more incompetent people in power to try to not hurt people's feelings. And I've always been the kind of guy to just call it like I see it. Sometimes I'm wrong, but I think I'm telling the truth. If I figure out I'm wrong, I'll admit to it, because I want to know what the truth is. But I just say it. Like, I don't like when people just, like, you might not like some of my opinions, but at least you know what they are. I'm not going to say everything but answer a question. What's your stance on the current state of education? What, in America? Our education is pretty much meant to churn out factory workers. The main point of school is to say the Pledge of Allegiance from the time you're 5 till you're 18. I think our education is horrible. And I put a lot of blame on the teachers. Like, I really do. Like, we have a lot of shitty teachers where they think too highly of themselves. It's super easy to become a teacher. They don't really have to be that smart to be a teacher. They always think that they should get more money, and they have a pretty relatively easy job compared to other jobs if they'd worked some other jobs. The answers are in the book. The room is air conditioned. There's plenty of like government, dental, this, that, and this. And teachers are always getting together saying that they need to get paid more money and get paid more money and get paid more money. And so because they feel like they're not, and maybe they do need to get paid more money, but I guarantee you when you pay them more money, they're going to ask for even more money. It'll never be enough. And they don't really do their job because they feel like they're not getting paid enough to do their job. And they're lazy. They do a lot of collective punishment instead of figuring out who did what. A lot of them are incompetent. But I mean, if they want competent teachers, they are going to have to pay more, but they're also going to have to raise their standard and stop letting so many people stop letting these women that are going to fuck the students be teachers, stop letting these boring ass people be teachers, stop letting these people that don't care be teachers. Yeah, they are known for low salaries, but how much is their salary worth? Because what do they teach that you can't go on YouTube and learn for free faster? That's the issue, though. I'm saying, like, how much is it worth to teach somebody elementary school knowledge or middle school knowledge or high school knowledge? How much is it really worth? How much, if the student gets all A's and learns everything that's taught to them by the teachers, how much was that education really worth? Because I think it's overrated, and especially college. Because you take some college courses thinking it's going to be like super hard, and you find that it's high school repeated. I think they've dumbed down education a lot, but I also think that there's a lot of social problems with education. And in my home life, when my home life was bad, my grades suffered, and when my home life was, because cortisone hurts memory. And one of the things wrong in education is there's too many female teachers. And when boys are around a bunch of females, it brings up their cortisol levels. Single mothers raise their son's cortisol levels. He's not going to develop into as much of a man as he would have if he'd have been around his father. He's not going to, you remember in all classical civilizations, the students are taught by male teachers. Now they're all taught by women. They can't teach them how to be a man. They can't let them really develop. That have to suppress them and make them be more like girls. They have to teach them as if they were women. Women are just wholly unequipped to be teaching boys. And we've got majority female teachers. That's the problem with education. If we had more male teachers, we wouldn't have. But male teachers have to support women and children. They can't afford to be teachers. But if you had more male teachers, education would improve. And also female teachers are biased too. Because they're about that girl power. They want their girl students to have as high grades as the boys. The writing assignment. A lot of female teachers spend too much time talking about their personal life instead of teaching. And a lot of students know they can get the teacher distracted talking about their personal life. And a lot of these teachers are as immature as that's probably why they fucking the students more than Catholic priests. A lot of them are not any more mature than a high schooler. That's why they want to hang around them all the time. Not all. I'm saying, like, when I went to school, I would say 2% of my teachers were good teachers that I really respect that did a good job. And I'm not one of them people that sucked at school. And so I'm like, oh, I hate school because I sucked. I did good at school. I still hated it. I still resented being in prison. I still resented that much of my life being stolen from me. I still resented having to be distracted by class clowns constantly. All this just nonsense. Like, I'm telling you, if you want a good education, choose your neighborhood wisely. Because what kind of students you share a class with is going to have a lot on whether you even can learn. Because if you're in certain communities, you can give it up. You need to move location. Because I've been to a lot of schools. My dad was in the Air Force. My mom could pay rent. We moved around a bunch. I've been to a bunch of schools. And I know the best schools that are easiest to learn in, the students of those schools have a certain type of parents, a certain type of culture, a certain type of ethics. If you go to a school where 70% of the kids at that school do not value education, that's going to handicap you. When they just want to bullshit and play and distract the teacher and all that shit, that's going to hurt you. And it's going to reflect bad on you. But then the teacher Teachers having too many damn, basically sexually harassed by the student. I've seen a lot of bullshit. I've seen a lot of bullshit in schools. But I don't think a school, like, if the students aren't well behaved, there ain't much the teachers can do. So it's like education in this country, there's a lot of dimensions to that. One of the reasons that the school system is so bad is it takes so many hours away from it takes the children, because it's about brainwashing. It's about giving that civil identity and taking away that family identity and not letting other dynasties arise, not letting other crowns be passed down. So when you're stripping them of their creativity and making them a bunch of mindless drones and everything, and you're doing this to these students and whatever, they've got to learn to be told something and believe it on the basis of authority and repeat it, remember it and repeat it. They've got to walk in a straight line, and they've got to, and there's, a lot of geniuses, the rate of geniuses goes down after you're put through, people are told to remember and repeat things, not how to think, or not to think critically, or not to question authority, or, and sometimes, but a while ago, there was something else I was going to say, and I went to talking, and I completely forgot what point I was going to make. There's a reason. The silent. Oh, yeah. The parents do not pass down important information to their children because they don't have time to. They only have their tired time, and the kid only has tired time with their parents. That bond is severed. There's not enough time. The parents could be teaching the kids a lot more, but the kids instead have their lives wasted spending the lion's share of their time in public school, being dumbed down, being prevented from developing. They could have been working. They could have been developing all kind of skills. And they could have learned everything for free that they learned at school in less time. You can get on YouTube. We have the internet now. We ain't got to have some kind of building that we hold the books at that everybody meets at. And you can go online and you can learn about math. You can learn about grammar. You can learn about everything and more at your own pace, faster, for free, and have more time with your family. So that's why public school is trash. It's not so much, part of it is the teachers to blame and the parents to blame, but part of it is the system itself. The system itself is fucked. For one, you should be standing up and walking around while you're learning if you really want to retain the energy and have a healthy brain. But if you want to cripple yourself, sit down for that many hours a day. You're never going to develop into your full potential as a man while you're sitting in a chair hour after hour after hour surrounded by women being authorities over you. You're fucked. You're being made a slave. That's what the whole thing is. Put your hand over your heart, say the Pledge of Allegiance to something you don't understand. Do what all these women tell you to do all day. Repeat what they tell you because they told it to you. Remember it for a week. And do that for 18 years. And then you'll be ready to join the workforce, and you'll be ready to divorce welfare. It's a waste of time. You're enslaved. They rob your life. Your parents go to jail if you don't go there. It's to make you slaves. That's why you have public school. No decent civilization has public school. They have private schools, and they have home schools that are very competent. That's what Rome did. When Rome was beating all the Greeks and everything, they were homeschooled. Their fathers were intelligent. They passed that knowledge down. They hired tutors. They didn't have a bunch of zombies sitting in one room repeating the same thing, sitting down for hours and hours and hours to fuck up their brain chemistry, to fuck up the development of their bodies, to cripple them, to make them slaves of the state, brainless workers. That's what it is. And, a lot of people that are teachers, they don't even know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're teaching the next generation, but they don't know what they're really doing. They're conditioning a slave populace. That's what they're doing. And so, I did good at school, but fuck school. That stole a lot of my life from me. I could have learned a lot of that a lot faster. If and then let's go learn the Holocaust every other year. and not learn anything about the good achievements of our people. It's just a brainwashing camp. It's just like how entertainment is propaganda, but they put entertainment in there so you'll watch the propaganda. School is just conditioning you to be a slave, but they got to put education in there to justify taking the children for the parents for that long. And it's also political hostages. So that at any point, if the government wants to, they could take all the parents' teachers and hold them hostage. That's what public school is about. So it's always been that way. The ruling class isn't like, they don't get the same education as me and you. They learn how to control the tax farm generation after generation and how to run that cycle. Just like how there's a cycle in farming, there's a time to harvest and a time to plant and a time to grow it. It's the same thing with tax farms of nations. There's a time for public schools and central banks and communism and abolishment of private property. There's a process of letting them have innovation so they can create all these glorious things. So you can have a geothermal power plant with solar panel robots in a bunker somewhere. You give them freedom to a point, and then it's about re-enslaving them, taking that away from them, making them forget that ever was. And then you come back out and you're the wizards and the religious leaders because you've got technology that lets you do magic that other people don't understand. And it's a process. And so, America was made to build a one world government. It was never made to give English people freedom. It was always made to put banks in every country in the world and build a one world government, a Luciferian one world government. That's been the goal of it since its inception. And public school is part of the process of transitioning from the republic to democracy to communism. And, so I'm kind of, I'm home. I done got working and I've been doing too much talking. And I'm going to get off this live stream. I hope y'all have a good day. And there's a lot of things that I just even hope I'm wrong about. A lot of times I say things that sound crazy, then 10 years later, turns out I was right. Everyone wants money, but teachers. But here's something about teachers. Okay, so schools get paid off property taxes. And a lot of that money goes to the Board of Education, but doesn't go to the school, to the students or the teachers. That's a big part of the problem. The bureaucracy is siphoning a bunch of it off, building buildings and private stuff and stealing money and a lot of bullshit going on. So really, we pay a lot of money to education that never makes it to education because the politicians eat it before it gets there. And so we could pay teachers a whole hell of a lot more if we would stop paying the Board of Education so much. Now, AI is blending fact and fiction online, so I would argue that physical education will make a strong comeback. I worry for future generations because AI is going to get better and they're going to, I saw an animal that I know is a real animal. It's one of them weird looking animals. And people in the comment section did not believe it was a real animal. They thought it was AI, which there's a lot of AI videos of fake animals that people are believing is real. But it's like I had already learned about this before the internet. I was born in 1987. So I knew it was a real animal, just a freaky looking animal. And I'm just thinking, dang, people aren't going to know what's true or not true. They grew up only on phones with AI, seeing all kind of AI generated stuff. More money equals better education. Well, not necessarily. I mean, you could give $1 million to a paranoid schizophrenic fool to teach, but you wouldn't. But yeah, you get what you pay for. So I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm just arguing for no reason. I could just give you that one. More money, better education. Yeah, that's probably true. Now AI, I already read that one. I think it's a myth that education was ever exclusively for men. But actually, I do think that, there's a certain point. There's a certain point where you gain by educating women, and then there's a point to where there's no gain to be had. And I'm going to tell you another reason why voting was a problem is because women are attracted to social status. So if no women can vote, any man has at least a certain amount of social status. And this helps check female hypergamy, where women have a tendency, they all are way more pickier than men, and they all want the top men. And if too many men do not have a female counterpart to kind of civilize them and tame them, you'll get a society that's way more aggressive, way more prone to go to war just because of sexual frustration. They're going to attack other nations, kill them, rape their women, take their women, do whatever. You don't get peaceful. When you've got like men that can marry 5, 6 women, and most men have no women, you get very violent societies. Like, I'll just get back to the point. So when you educate women to a certain point, they don't really offer the world any more value by that education, because once they start having kids, they're going to want to be there with their kids. Or if they're not there with their kids, you're not helping the net. It's not a net gain. So like a lot of women, they become nurses because they want to marry a doctor. They get a job because they want to marry, they want to work while they're working, and they want to have that as a fallback option, as a plan B for if it don't work out. They want a career as a backup if it don't work out. But what happens is now they're not attracted to as many men. They want men to be more educated than they are. And so by mass educating women on a college level, but you've got a lot of women that think that they're worth more than what they're worth. And fertility there's a short window of fertility, and you're wasting it, because peak fertility is between 16 and 24, and legal fertility is between 18, and 24. And then, so what happens is you get women, they go to college, they have had sex with multiple partners, they're not able to pair bond as good, and they wasted more of their fertile years, and now the humans that are born for them will have more genetic defects because they're made from older aged eggs. And it's just not a positive thing. It's a positive thing for women to have education to a certain point. But at the other point, it just collapses birth rates. And then somebody that has no education, that just believes in raping 9-year-old children, is like Muslims, is going to out-reproduce you and take your country. And your daughters are going to be slaves of Muslims. It's not going to matter. So you can be like, yeah, I'm a feminist. I can vote. I can work. I can have a good education. Yeah, but your nation is going to be in debt. It's not going to make men that can protect it. It's going to have negative birth rates, and it's going to be conquered and replaced by patriarchal society. You just can't get around nature. We're a polydimorphic species. The genders are not the same. There's differences between the genders, and as a species, we're a patriarchal species where it's meant for men to rule. And this is to the benefit of women and children and men. There's no benefit to giving women authority over men when they cannot overpower a man to begin with. Nature never wanted women to be in charge of men. It wanted men to be in charge of women. It wanted the more logical to be guardrails for the more emotional. And women just aren't fit to govern. They're just not made to be that. They're just not competent to do it. And you look, when women have political power over countries, they plunge their countries into war, in debt. They normally are so much about holding on to power that they will not allow their sons to develop. They cripple them, they infantilize them, and then they wind up losing the throne. Look at how many times that's happened. Where does a queen pass her country? But once you get a queen, you lose your whole country. Once you get a Cleopatra, you lose your whole country to Rome. You get conquered by Muhammad. You have negative birth rates. I mean, it's like, it might not feel good. It may not be what people want to hear, but you just can't have this utopian world where everybody gets everything and everybody can do everything. Everything has trade-offs. There's no solution where everybody gets everything. If you want one thing, you got to give up something else. So what do you get if you get a population with college-educated women? You get women that have sex with a lot of people before they get married, get divorced, way more likely to get divorced. College-educated women have a divorce rate, something like 80%. They get divorced. They waste their fertile years, and then they go do a career, and they waste their fertile years up. And what happens? And then let's say you get women to be the society benefits more if the woman give birth to more sons and had more sons to go into the workforce, to be in college. If she mothered more sons, the nation would be more powerful than if she had more daughters that had college degrees. And so for a while you think, okay, we've won, we've arrived, we have everything that men have. And then the day comes to be carried off as property by a patriarchal nation. And it's happening. You can look at Europe. Europe's ahead of Canada and America on this. But you watch, they're all going to be minorities in their own country by 2050. And the Sharia law is going to be on them. And they'll have no rights. Those women, those feminists that pass those laws for their men to have to sit down to pee in public bathrooms, they're going to be raped by Muslims. They're going to be slaves. They're not going to have any rights whatsoever. Because those who, whether it's right or wrong or whatever, whoever will be true to human nature and be a patriarchal nation will out-reproduce a nation that isn't. And so basically every nation goes through a cycle where they start off as being more patriarchal. This leads to their wealth and prosperity. They get the disease of egalitarianism, and then they move into being an effeminate society, and then they fall into collapse and are conquered. The patriarchal orders and the matriarchal disorders. You hear them say things like dismantle the patriarchy, dismantle this, dismantle that. They tear shit up. They don't build anything. They want to be part of something that they have no business being part of, and they just ruin it. And then people, women and boys and girls don't have mothers. They don't have mothers. And men don't have wives. Wives don't have, you just wind up with a bunch of baby daddy, baby mamas, and you go back into, it's going to be back like, wearing bikinis and twerking, and they just look tribal like savages again. It just breaks down into nothing again. They just cannot. You need a patriarchal society where the father passes knowledge to the son passes knowledge to the son, when nobody knows, whenever you get a matriarchal society, you get a nation of whores. Nobody knows who the father is. No information is being passed generation to generation. Show me a household that's a matriarchal household where there's no daddy in the house, where the grandma's the leader of the house, that all her granddaughters aren't whores. Show me one. Show me one. You lose family. You can't even keep the institution of family under matriarchy. Patriarchy is family. That's what it is. It's men being men, women being women. You don't have to be a tyrant and oppress women. You don't have to be mean to women, but you do not need to have the tyranny of women over men. You don't need women who aren't able to tell men what to do, have no business telling men what to do, aren't strong enough, can't defend men, can't provide for men, don't have the stress tolerance to handle as much stuff being the boss of men. It's rebellion to nature itself. It's absolute foolishness. And all nations that experiment with it pay the price. And that's why America's in decline with all this debt, all this abortion, all this degeneracy. It's because we let women vote. It's because we lost our balls way back there. And that's where we made a wrong turn, and that's where we need to correct. And but if we don't correct, nature will correct for us. All the matriarchal societies are in debt with negative birth rates. All the patriarchal societies, they're on their way up. They've got massive, explosive population. And so just to counter, the one and only female emperor in China heavily bettered the quality of life for everyone. I have heard about this female emperor. I'm going to go and look up her. But I think I remember she assassinated a lot of people, went to a lot of wars. She might have made things better. I don't know. I have to look into that. I ain't going to say anything about that. But I do think a lot of people, good leaders have to be ruthless. What's her name? Gigi? I forget. I don't know. I'll look into that. But, just because you have cases like, okay, generally speaking, men are better at math than women. But you can find a woman that's a math genius, but that doesn't mean we need to have half the people in any math field be women. That would, if it's an exception, if like for the most time you give women power, it goes to their head and they abuse power. That's what mostly happens. Most women are not able to handle power at all. They mostly become corrupt. They mostly become tyrannical. Maybe there was one that didn't, but mostly that's what happens. Women are really grown up more soft and with more entitlement anyway. They're not really put with a burden, nothing. They have a bailout for everything. The pill, abortion, divorce, the welfare state, college grants. No matter what, there'll be an excuse made for a woman. Like, you cannot criticize women or Jews without there being, what about this? What about that? What about this? Because that's who has power in the world, the most power right now, because men have left their principles and common sense to only want to please their dick. They're like, I want to feel good. I want to feel good. And that's the most important thing. I want to feel good. And so women have this insane power to be able to kill babies. And they still don't hold women to check. They're like, yeah, y'all can start killing y'all's babies. Yeah, y'all can start telling us what to do. Yeah, you can be the president. Absolute foolishness. And they just ain't got no balls. They want sexual pleasure too much to tell the truth. And a lot of men, most men lie to women, and they let women believe all kind of delusional things just to get sex. And I've never been that way. I had to wait till I was like 36 to get into a good relationship, because I just tell the truth, whether it ruin the relationship or what. I'm not going to lie to get sex. I'm just going to say it what it is. And it puts a lot of women off, but, and they're like, you'll die alone, but I didn't. Every now and then but see, Brittany is a rare type of woman that will take personal accountability and admit when she's wrong. That's a big part of why I'm with her. Most women cannot do that. They will forever have an excuse. They'll forever have an entitlement. We should have it too, even if we don't earn it. I do love women though, but I think women are happier when they have children, when they're mothers. I don't think women are happy with a career life. Some women are. I think if a woman can't have children, it makes more sense for her to go into a career. But if a woman can have children and she's given up being a mother of children to go into the workforce, she's being scammed, because all of us men know we're slaves. We're hoping to get enough money to build a side business, or hoping to get enough money to do our own thing and get free from this grind of having to do a lot of work for a little bit of pay. And women were privileged. They weren't being oppressed. They were lied to and told they were being oppressed. And now they think they're being oppressed if they don't take the career path. The career path is the slavery path. Y'all were better off before. There was work to do in the home. There was work to do with the children. But the thing is, the only way you can get a woman in the workforce is to take her out of the home. And there's a lot to do to try to maintain the home. If you're going to really maintain the home can be a business. The home can make clothes. The home can make food. The home can make furniture. The home can grow food. The home can raise children. The home is like the nest. There's the world inside the home. The man has made this nest, this area of protection and provision, this secure and safe place for the women and the children to be at, and to be able to even be feminine and to be able to be nurturing, because she's got that safety net and that provided for by the man going into the dangerous outside world to provide this inside world. But when you pull the women out of the house, and now the house is understaffed, now the house isn't in the home. Now the house can't do all the things that the house used to be able to do. And it's part of breaking down you cannot be a king. You got to be a slave. You can't become a noble. You cannot pass down knowledge to your children to become progress and get up out of this slavery tax farm, because you don't have a home. Your home is not being managed. Your home has been abandoned for your wife to pay taxes to the state. The women, the family has betrayed the family to be a puppet of the state. That's what's happened. The family is not going to become a nation and become a state. The family is going to keep being peasants and slaves because they think they're free if their women go work outside of the home and don't be women. If the women could get the same privileges as men, but without the same responsibilities. Women aren't even net taxpayers. They're not as a demographic. Women in no country are net taxpayers. They cost the government more than they pay in. Why are you letting them make any decisions over spending money? They don't serve combat roles. Why are they voting over who goes to war? Why are they can't tell you what to do? Why did you give them the ability to vote to tell you what to do? Or it's just it was men that just and this happens in every nation, every civilization. It happens when men fall from the founding principles and they just care about wealth or glory or pleasure, and they're not really looking after the state anymore. They're just looking after their own whimsical pleasures, and they're not looking after the long term. A lot of people knew in the long term it was a dumb idea to give women the vote, but why they do it? because they wanted to go home and their wife smile and be happy. But did it make her happy? No, it didn't make her happy. They're the least depressed, the most prosperous they've ever been, and they're the least happy because women are not happy when they can rule men. Because when a woman can rule men, the man is weak, and then she doesn't feel safe. Because how can he protect her? She can manipulate him. She can tell him what to do. He doesn't seem like a strong being that can protect her anymore. And it strips her from feeling safe. And she needs even more security given to her by the government. And she votes in tyrants. And that's why they give them the vote anyway. And I had a call, Brittany.